Oh baby, we got some Kirby up in here. Kirby is probably one of my favorite franchises and series and, you know, collection of games. But I have basically neglected this entire franchise on this channel. Years and years ago, me and a friend played through Return to Dreamland, and that was a lot of fun. We actually also played through Kirby Superstar, but I never put those videos up. They're still on the channel, but they're just not public. And then I tried to do Nightmare in Dreamland and stopped like 2 videos in, but we're gonna go back to where it started. I am playing this through the Kirby Dream Collection, which is one of my personal favorite collections of games. We're going to play the original Kirby's Dream Land. This is a first, I think, for the channel, because not only is it the first Game Boy game I've played, it's the first game that I've played all in one video, and I think it's also the oldest game that I've played. I can't think of a game that is older than this on the channel. So, this is where it all began. Kirby's Dream Land. It's pretty simple, as you can no doubt tell, since it's only a half an hour. It's a very replayable game, I would say, but it's missing a lot of the, like, key features that you would think about when you think of Kirby. Specifically, the copy abilities was not yet introduced. Kirby can suck up enemies, he can swallow them, but he cannot gain any abilities from doing so. Really, the only benefit of sucking up an enemy is to use them as a projectile weapon. And that's about it. Really, that's all Kirby can do. He doesn't have a slide move, he doesn't have a dodge, or a, you know, block button like you'll get in some other games. He's basically just a little guy running around, sucking people up and spitting them out. And I think that's, you know, it's fine. It's still an interesting concept. I think thinking about this as the first game, I think the concept of, you know, instead of jumping on enemies' heads or attacking them with, like, fire flowers or whatever, I think the ability to suck up an enemy and use them as the weapon is still pretty novel. You know, if I was alive when this game came out, I wouldn't be born until the next year. I think this would be a pretty cool game. I do think, obviously, the series actually found its footing with the copy abilities. The copy abilities is really what you think of when you think of Kirby at this point. But this game does have a lot of very iconic elements to it, you know, elements that are still being seen to this day in Kirby games. You know, Kirby, DDD. A lot of the enemies are still being used, you know, Wispy Woods being the first boss, a lot of the music. So you can see where a lot of the Kirby series went from here, but if I'm going back to play a Kirby game, it's probably not going to be this. Even though I do think it is quite replayable just due to its short length. This game did get remade, sort of, kind of, in Kirby Superstar. The first, like, game that you can play in that game is called Spring Breeze, and it's a very condensed version of Kirby's Dream Land. I know, more condensed than a half hour. I think it's about 10 minutes long, but it's the same basic formula, but it's missing a lot of stuff. You know, it's not every single level in here, but it is still a good bit of them. So if I were to go back and play Kirby's Dream Land, it's probably going to be through Superstar. I'll pop this in event, you know, every now and then. If I'm popping in the Dream Collection, it's usually to play Kirby 64. Sometimes I'll go through Kirby 64 and I'll just say, okay, you know what, I kind of feel like playing Dreamland, let's do that first. So I had actually forgotten about this, but the microphone power is like the only power-up that you can use, but I accidentally swallowed it there. We will get to see it later on. There are like 2-ish power-ups that you can use. There's that, and then every now and then you'll see right there that bomb. If it hits an enemy or hits something, it'll explode everything else in the area, but I just whiffed that shot entirely. But it's really not, like, necessary. This game isn't very hard. I got a game over once, and that was at the end of this game, only because there's one boss in this game that I really do not like fighting, and I kept dying to it. And I think graphically speaking, this game still looks quite nice. You know, obviously it's in black and white, or like gray and brown, which is what I would more say that the Game Boy was. I had a Game Boy growing up. You know, I played like Pokemon and stuff like that on it. But I would say that the color palette of the Game Boy isn't even like black and brown, it's more like green. Which you're not really seeing, I guess, in this. I guess they've kind of fixed it, or this is probably how the game was meant to be played, you know, and seen originally, but just on the actual Game Boy itself, the screen always looked very green. That's, you know, 1 point for us Game Gear heads. I was the only person I knew that had a Game Gear, and that one, the colors were much better. And I want to say that came out before the Game Boy Color. Right? Is that true? I don't know. I don't know enough about that stuff. I think I still have a Game Boy Color somewhere around here, but I didn't use that nearly as much. The only thing I really played on Game Boy was Pokemon and Mario Brothers Deluxe. This is the fight that I don't like, by the way. It's very weird. The enemies go from being hit to being able to hit you very quickly. I feel like there should be at least a little bit of a invincibility time for the enemy. Because you gotta, like, run away as soon as you hit them. So, this is probably my least favorite boss in the game, and you have to fight him again. It's like Lala and Lolo or something like that. I always forget their names. See, there's a bunch of stuff here that makes it into other games. You still got the end of the level dance. You don't have an end of the game minigame, which I think is kind of unfortunate. In terms of the early Kirby games, the next game is probably my favorite. And, you know, that is the game that eventually would become Nightmare in Dreamland, which I am planning to revisit. I've actually already recorded all of it. I just kind of wanted to do this first. You know, you get some context here. And the Kirby series is, like I said, one that I've wanted to revisit on this channel for a very long time. And I'm in a bit of a Kirby mood. I'm very excited for the new Kirby game. I've been saying for years I think that they should do basically what they're going to do, which is a 3D Kirby game. Now, whether it's like Mario Odyssey Kirby, or if it's more like 3D World Kirby, I'm not quite sure. We've seen a lot of trailers for it. I think it looks to me like it's probably going to be 3D World Kirby, where it's level-based instead of like a big open world, but I'm not sure. Once I know that I'm excited for a game, I try not to look at a lot of trailers for it now. You know, I don't want things spoiled, and I kind of want to go in as fresh as possible. Really, all I needed was that original trailer. And that's really about it. But I am very, very excited for that game. Star Allies came out, and I think that the, like, Return to Dreamland formula was starting to get old. I think all those games are great. I never played the 3DS ones, but Return to Dreamland and Star Allies are both very good games, but by the time Star Allies came out, you can tell it was getting a little long in the tooth, and that they needed to switch things up. Because Kirby basically is I mean, again, I love this series to death, but it is a series that has had very minimal changes throughout its history. If you look at this game, and then you look at Star Allies, you can tell, yeah, not a whole lot has changed here. It's still the basic formula. I thought that that was a door, by the way. I don't know what that's about. It looks like you should be able to go through there. But, like, if you were to show someone Mario Brothers 1, and then show them Mario Odyssey, you can tell quite a bit has changed. So this is another one of the power-ups that is in this game. It's Spicy Curry, which I would say I don't even associate Spicy Curry with Kirby anymore. I associate it more with Smash Bros, since that's an item. But you'll get it, and it kind of acts like the invincibility candy in later games, but you're not invincible. You'll glow like that, but basically every time you exhale, you spit out fire. So it's not quite as uncontrollable as it is in Smash, but, you know, it's fine. Again, just seeing a lot of things that originate in this game that are still being used either in Kirby or in other games altogether. So this is basically the same thing. It's like another version of the Spicy Curry. I think it's technically a different item, but it's basically the same thing. Also, this is the one boss in this game that I always forget exists until I get to it. I'm like, oh yeah, there is a guy that you fight in the air. This is one of those guys that was cut out of Spring Breeze. I don't remember him at all. Probably one of the easier bosses. Again, it's Kirby, it's not very difficult. But he is even less difficult than some of the other bosses in this game. Like I said, Lily and Lulu, or Pee-Pee and Poo-Poo, or whatever their names are probably the most difficult boss in this game for me, anyway. And again, when they appear in Spring Breeze, it's like, it is a breeze taking them out. That was embarrassing. I was very embarrassed by that, by the way. Yeah, so when they show up in Kirby Superstar, once you have the copy abilities, they're like a joke. So the first game is really the only game where they're like an issue. Also, Kirby's one of those series, like, when I'm really into a series, I tend to play every single game in the series. Kirby's one of those where it's like, if it doesn't look like it's interesting to me, I'm not going to play it. So I haven't played, like, any of the DS or Game Boy Advance games for Kirby past, like, Return to Nightmare in Dreamland. Because there's, like, Squeak Squad, which doesn't look interesting. Amazing Mirror I played on the 3DS. And it's not, just not up my alley. Canvas Curse never looked interesting. So there's just a bunch that I've never played. Robobot and... what was the other one? Triple Deluxe? Is that the name of that one? Was also one that I wanted to play, I just never got around to it. It was hard for me to justify buying 3DS games after a point. I was one of those people who was like, why is this being released on here? This should be on Switch. You know, after the Switch came out. Like, the Luigi's Mansion remake should have been on Switch. Metroid 2 remake should have been on Switch. But whatever, what are you gonna do? See, this is the problem that I had. The reason that I never finished Nightmare in Dreamland was because it's very difficult to talk over a Kirby game, because what really is there to say? It's Kirby, he's a fun little guy, he's cute, he just loves running around. Kirby, probably the cutest video game protagonist, not gonna even open that up for debate. I can't think of any real cuter guy. He's a sweet boy. The thing I've always most appreciated about Kirby games is that they're very chill. You know, some of them can get kind of annoying sometimes as the games go on. Sometimes they get a little annoying. Like, replaying Nightmare in Dreamland to record it, I do have some issues with that one. It's still probably my favorite, like, sprite-based 2D Kirby game. But it does have some issues, I think just due to the fact that it's on the Game Boy Advance, but we'll get to that. But most of the games are just really chill experiences. I always just love popping one of these on to relax, listen to the great music, and have a fun time with a platformer that you basically don't need to really have too much skill to play. Because in terms of like this era of platformers, my favorite is probably Donkey Kong Country, and that is not a chill game at all. That is the opposite of chill. So sometimes it's nice to just pop on a Kirby game. Good vibes in these Kirby games. So yeah, once you exhale is when you actually fire these out. And yeah, you can see there's some slowdown here. I think they fixed a lot of the slowdown in, like, other versions of these. Like, I know in Kirby Superstar that game has a little bit of slowdown, but I don't think it's as bad on the Switch version. Thankfully, this is not like a Mega Man game where if you touch spikes, you're dead just straight up. You do get hit each time you touch it, so you do have a chance to not get completely murked by spikes. Also, hey, you know what? These borders are great. I love the borders that they give the games in the Kirby Dream Collection. They're just lovely. And yeah, I know about the secret room there, I just didn't want to waste time with it. One of the big problems, I mean, I have a lot of problems with the Switch Online library. I think the biggest, other than the fact that they are, like, trickling these games out at a snail's pace, is the fact that the borders that they have around the games are, like, the most despicable things. It's so annoying. Just make it 2 black bars. I hate the way they look. I don't know. I know that's such a small, minor thing, but it bothers me so much. Like, the games look good. I like the way the N64 games look. But just give me borders. Give me normal borders. Or give me artwork borders like a lot of collections do. A lot of these types of collections will give, like, artwork on the side, which I always really appreciate. I just like, DDD doing the Pog face in the corner. You know, what's not to love about that? This boss is fine. This is another one that would get better. You know, just a lot of these bosses are not really living up to their potential due to the fact that there are no copy abilities and you have to fight them so slowly. I think the only boss in this game that is genuinely good is the final boss. That is the only boss that I enjoy coming back to. So, we are at Mount DDD, which means we get to hear one of my, if not my all-time favorite song in any game, King DDD's theme. It's just such a bop. I love listening to it. I love listening to how this song has evolved over the years. And DDD is just one of my all-time favorite characters. Always has been since I was a kid. As a kid, my favorite animal were penguins, and I just really liked DDD because he was a big penguin guy that had a big hammer. But I always liked the characterization of DDD, how he's not really all that bad. This is the only game in the series where he's, like, truly a bad guy. Because the plot of this game, which, you know, obviously that they don't really say in the game, is that DDD has stolen all of the food in Dreamland, and Kirby's got to get it back. You know, I like that the Waddle Dees are basically, like, completely subservient to DDD. Like, they have his complete loyalty, or he has their complete loyalty. I just think it's cute. I just think it's neat. You know, what do you want me to say? It's a cute game. I like DDD. I like him more as just kind of a guy doing his own thing, rather than as just like a straight villain. And I don't know, I don't think these are supposed to be, like, more difficult versions of the bosses. But this fight with, what is his name? Krakow? Is that his name? Felt a lot more difficult than the one that I literally just did. I'm gonna see if this guy's name is Krakow or not. Is it Krakow? I think it's just Krakow. It is just Krakow. Okay. But yeah, going back to the Switch Online stuff, I haven't picked up the, like, the N64 expansion yet, because there's a lot of games I would like to see on there that are not on there. They just added Majora's Mask, which is fine. You know, I'd be curious to play Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask on a TV, which I have not done in a very long time. Usually when I play those games, I play them on the 3DS. And now that they've fixed a lot of the emulation problems with the emulator, you know, it looks like it's probably worth playing now, but I have not and will not buy a subscription to that until they give us Kirby 64. That is one of my favorite N64 games. And I do think it is pretty wild that they released that Mario 3D collection just to put Mario 64 on the Switch Online as well. So yeah, this was the one that I really just hated doing again. I really didn't want to have to fight these guys again. Because like I said, you have like such little time to dodge what they're doing, and there I just got myself locked in. That was my fault. Once you hit the enemy, they should have a brief period of time where they can't hurt you, because they have invincibility frames and so do you. But instead you have to like snipe them very quickly and then run away. I was trying to exhale on him, which does count as an attack, but it just wasn't quite working. So I think, did I game over there? No, I do game over in this level, though. Thankfully, game overing isn't really that big of a deal in this game. I was expecting to have to go back and play the game all over again. But they do just start you at the beginning of the last level that you played, so not that big of a deal. Kirby's always been fairly forgiving. Because it's a game for beginners, but it's not one that, like, adults can't play. I've never found myself, besides Kirby's Epic Yarn, which I think is way too easy, none of them have really been, like, completely inaccessible due to lack of difficulty, so I don't really mind it. And like I said, sometimes it's fun to just play a chill game that, you know, you're not gonna have too much problems with. Of course, I'm playing this the week that Elden Ring came out, and the really fun conversation that happens every time one of these games comes out is, should difficulty be lowered in these games? And look, I'm not good at the Souls games, but I also do not believe that difficulty should be... There should not be a difficulty slider in Souls games. That's kind of the point of those games. And yeah, that was really embarrassing too. I just don't know how I did that. So, thankfully, we just gotta start from the beginning of this level. Although I'm going to skip to where I just was, so... Very ironic to die in the Wispy Woods stage, I understand that. I thought I was gonna go in order of, like, hardest to least hard. But apparently Wispy Woods is just too difficult for me. The way that you go in these levels is very bizarre. Who is that other Kirby? Why was the other Kirby very big in the first stage? Who is he? But here we go, we got Mr. Wispy Woods, everyone's favorite Kirby boss. It would be very disappointing not to fight Wispy Woods as the first boss in any Kirby game. I am recording this before the new Kirby game is out. I don't know when this video is going to go up, but it would be very, very sad to see Wispy Woods not be in that. I think we've seen him in a trailer, if I'm not mistaken, but, you know, where his placement is in the game is up for debate. Again, Wispy Woods gotta be the first boss, or don't even bother. So here we go, the king himself, where we get to hear his theme in its entirety, uninterrupted. King DDD is a very fun fight. This is more about, like, skill and actually being able to... It's really just pattern recognition. I would say the only time that it is appropriate to try and attack him is when he does this jump attack. And he will expel 2 stars on the side of him that you can suck up. He also does have one of those stars when he hammers you. But I'm gonna go ahead and say that the hammer attack is too difficult to dodge. And the star lasts for such a short amount of time that you have to be basically right in front of him, and that's a little too dangerous. So I like to wait for him to jump. That is the best time to really do that. This fight is a little bit better in the... Well, I'll say the fight itself might actually be better in this game. Just because it is more skill-based. You know, you don't have the copy abilities to make it completely trivial. You know, just sword him to death, lock him in a loop, and just throw bombs at him the entire time. So I will say I quite like this boss in this version. But visually speaking, I always like the version in Kirby Superstar where you can see like Mario and Luigi and Toad in the background. And DDD just looks great. I've always loved his design. Like I said, I'm a big DDD head. I'm a big fan of his. Although, as a kid, I was not a fan of him in Nightmare and... They should not have named the 2 games so similarly. Nightmare and Dreamland, I literally could not beat him as a child in that game. That was so difficult. Now I go back and play that, I'm like, oh, this is like easy. But hey, I was like 9 when that game came out. What do you want from me? I wasn't good at games. And I'm still not good at games, but at least I'm a little bit better. So yeah, I quite like this fight. I think it's a cool little brawl with King DDD. And this is also something that's still kind of being done in Kirby games today. Like, in the newest Smash Brothers game, his final smash involves him being in like a wrestling ring. He's in a wrestling ring right here. I think that's pretty cool that they've kept certain things so consistent over the years. And yeah, this part I was getting kind of annoyed because he hadn't jumped in quite a while. There we go, that should be it for him. Whoop, there he goes. And there you go, with that, Kirby has returned all of the food to the proper owners. Masa Sakurai, that's so funny. It's so weird seeing it not be Masahiro Sakurai, it's just Masa Sakurai. This was in that period of time where a lot of Japanese developers like had to use aliases and stuff. Which is just weird. I think I've talked about this before, but it's just a very weird time. Although these seem to be actual, like, full names, except for Bubby, of course. I don't know who that is. Kirby sequences, like, ending sequences, I've always really enjoyed. This one I don't think does it, where they do, like, the enemy roll call. Although I guess a lot of games did that at this point. Anyway, Kirby Dream Land is a very good game. It's a cute little game. It's just a sweet little game that's fun to go back to every now and then. Although, if you were playing this for the first time, I would maybe suggest playing it through Kirby Superstar and play Spring Breeze in that. So thank you for watching this very special game. It's cool that I got to do an entire game in one video. And, you know, I'll see you next time. Next time we see the Kirby series, it should be Nightmare in Dreamland, so see you then.